The first Gen 4 Territory was the most successful compact crossover since the pandemic happened, selling over 15,000 units and getting over 52% market share. Now this over here is the next Gen 4 Territory. Is it still worth the money? Let's find out. The next Gen 4 Territory comes in two variants. Among the two variants, this titanium is the one that still sits at the same price bracket as before. It's only about 25,000 pesos more expensive than the previous top of the line. In terms of pricing at least, this still qualifies as an entry-level crossover, so it still competes with the likes of the Geely Cool Ray, the Changan CS55 and the Cherry Tiggo 7 Pro. We've done a first look video before, but now we actually got to spend a couple of days driving the car. And I think it's a much better car to drive than the previous one, at least from a driving enthusiast's point of view. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. First, let's do a quick walk around. The first thing that you might notice about the new Ford Territory is that it looks a lot bigger now. It's about 50 millimeters longer, about 35 millimeters taller. It is about the same width. It looks especially bigger because of its boxier dimensions. The styling also looks a lot more muted now. You don't get as many distinct lines and accents as the previous generation. It looks a lot more rounded on the side. You don't get the sharp upswept lines here that you get on the previous Territory. Instead, you get these softer lines that blend with the other panels. And you also lose the massive fenders of the previous Territory, which made it look really muscular. There's a bit more styling going on at the front than at the sides. The front has a Hyundai-esque layout with the headlights down low and the DRLs up high. It gets these squinty-looking LED DRLs. These, by the way, are the turn signals, and the headlights are way down here. The grille is hexagonal in shape with scale-like inserts accented in chrome. By the way, the main difference on the outside between the base model and the top of the line are the wheels. The base model gets smaller 18s, while the top of the line gets 19-inch wheels. This comes in 6 different colors: ruby red, panther black, crystal pearl white, blue metallic, star white, and this one is called lustrous gray. It gets disc brakes on all 4 corners, fully independent suspension as well on all 4 corners. Of course, you get a power folding side mirror with repeaters, you get a functional roof rack. This gets a smart locking system, so you don't have to get the key out of your pocket. You can just press this button over here to lock or unlock the vehicle. Unlike the previous Territory, which was wider at the bottom and tapered towards the top, this has a much more square-shaped cross-section, which translates to more interior space. You don't get a lot of styling elements here at the back. It looks very simple. You don't get a lot of chrome accents, but thankfully you also don't get the fake exhaust tips of the previous Territory. You get 2 distinctly separate LED tail lamps, and in between them you have the Territory logo. You have rear parking sensors, and the rear camera is over here. Now, the base model Territory comes with a manual liftgate. The new Ford Territory has a cargo capacity of 448 liters with the second row seats up. That's 28 liters more than the previous generation. You can easily double that by folding the second row seats, although when you fold the seats, you don't get a completely flat flooring. Both variants of the Territory come with the same 1.5-liter engine, which now puts out 158 horsepower and 248 Nm of torque. That's significantly more than the previous generation, but what's more important is that it now comes with a dual-clutch transmission. The interior of the new Territory looks more premium, more modern, and more spacious than the previous generation. This base model titanium gets a 2-tone blue and gray color scheme, while the top of the line model gets, I believe, a cream and black color scheme. Almost everything that you can touch is covered in high quality materials. Like the entire top of the dashboard is covered in soft touch materials. This over here is leather wrapped. You have these forward accents over here, accentuated in chrome. This over here is soft touch as well. You get leather wrapped armrests both over here and also over here. Now the armrest of the previous Territory was split at the middle. This one opens in a more conventional way. The seats are leather wrapped. They're not ventilated though. If you want ventilated seats, you'll have to get the top of the line Titanium X. The driver's seat though is power adjustable. It also gets adjustable lumbar support. The passenger seat is manually adjustable. You get a leather wrapped steering wheel. It tilts and it also telescopes. You now get much bigger and much sharper screens. And the way they're laid out, it looks like you have a very wide screen in front of you. This is a 10.25-inch infotainment screen. It gets wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and you also get a 360 camera, which looks much nicer than the one on the previous gen. One improvement on the new Territory is that you now get dedicated buttons for the climate control, but only for the fan speed and ventilation modes. To adjust the temperature, you'll still have to go through the screen. Another improvement is that the climate control is now dual zone, whereas before even the top spec model only had single zone climate control. You get a wireless phone charger. Your shifter is now a knob. You get an electronic parking brake without a hold. Yeah, in terms of storage, you have a pretty sizable glove box. It's also dampened. You have plenty of storage underneath the center console. You also have two USB ports down there and one 12-volt outlet. Overall, I'd say the interior is an improvement in almost every way over the previous base model, except in one department. This no longer comes with a panoramic sunroof, which was a standard feature for both the base model and top of the line of the previous generation. The Territory has one of the most spacious second row seats in its class. I have plenty of legroom here. Headroom is also very good. They have about 3.5 to 4 inches. The flooring is almost completely flat, so the center passenger can be just as comfortable as the other two. Two air vents over there and one USB port. Overall, it's a nice place to be, but again, this is definitely the place where you'll miss the panoramic sunroof the most. On the previous gen Territory, Active Park Assist was only available on the top spec model. On the current gen, it is standard on both variants. It's also been improved now. It is completely automated. Now it's gonna automatically look for a parking spot. Okay, it found one. We're just gonna select it. Okay, so now I'm not doing anything. I'm not stepping on the brakes, not stepping on the gas, and I'm also not touching the steering wheel, and the car should automatically park itself. So unlike the previous Territory, you don't have to put the car in drive and reverse. It just automatically does it by itself. Let's go into drive now automatically. And my hands are not doing anything. Parking completed. Let's see how it looks. As you can see, it's completely straight. One of the most important improvements to the new Territory is in the way it drives. But before we talk about that, let's first talk about our sponsor for today. Introducing the AutoSport Mobility Scooter. The world's most innovative mobility scooter. It folds into a small suitcase size and it has wheels so you can move it around like a trolley. It separates into two parts. It has leather seats and grips, an illuminated LCD dashboard, enhanced lighting for extra visibility. You can install optional armrests. It's perfect for seniors as it's easy to lift and unfolds in seconds. It has a maximum speed of 10 kph, shock absorbing flat free tires, high ground clearance, advanced braking system, be free to travel anywhere, land, sea or air. It has 20 kilometers of continuous driving range. Engineered with flair, designed with passion for performance. Be active, be free, be yourself. Atto Sport, moving life. Clear. Yeah. So we can talk spec sheets all day, but one thing that you will not find on the spec sheets is how much more engaging the new Territory is to drive. This comes with a dual clutch transmission, which gives you a better sense of urgency when you floor it. You don't get that rubber band effect that you get on CVTs, and you also don't get that annoying CVT drone. The steering is also heavier and more communicative now. Now some may prefer the lighter steering of the previous Territory. I do prefer this. It's especially nice on the highway as you get a better sense of stability. Driving the new Ford Territory, you feel like you're a more substantial presence on the road. It feels like a much bigger and heavier vehicle. Although it's just as wide as before, the new Territory feels wider, it feels taller, and because of the weight of the steering, it feels heavier. Acceleration is a huge improvement over the previous Territory. I was able to do 0 to 100 kph in 9.5 seconds. That's more than a second quicker than the previous Territory. The car does a good job of insulating you from the outside world. Noise insulation is very good. And the suspension does a good job of absorbing road imperfections. As for fuel economy, I got 11 kpl in the city with moderate traffic and 14.5 kpl on the highway. Now as for complaints, I can think of a few, but nothing that's deal breaking. Like the previous Territory, a lot of the functions are hidden in the menus. Like there's no dedicated button for switching between drive modes. You'll have to go through the menus and it's a multi-step process. Also, while you have dedicated fan speed controls, the temperature controls are still hidden in the screen. Again, minor annoyances, but nothing that's deal-breaking, at least for me. The Ford Territory Titanium sells for 1.33 million pesos. That's 265,000 pesos less than the top-of-the-line Titanium X. And for that price difference, you lose the ventilated seats, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, the power liftgate, and the panoramic sunroof. The claim to fame of the previous Territory was that it was the most high-tech, most feature-packed crossover in its price bracket, beating Chinese crossovers at their own game. The new Territory is still a very high-tech and feature-packed crossover, even in this base form, especially if you compare it to other mainstream brands. It may not have the longest spec sheet in its price bracket anymore, but I think it's also a much better car to drive now. It's more spacious. I think the interior and the screens look much better. And for sure, that blue oval on the grille will play an important factor in the decision making of a lot of people, as a lot of its competitors are from lesser known Chinese brands. In the end, it all boils down to how important is ADAS and the panoramic sunroof to you. If it is important, then you'll have to shell out an additional $260K or look elsewhere. If not, then this titanium is still one of the better crossovers that you can buy in this segment.